Hello, everyone. So I felt nudged by the Nine to jump on today and share with you some of the additional information that's been streaming in as it relates to this month of April and what you can expect, what you might be feeling. I know that we've been on this energetic roller coaster of a ride. And before I begin, a lot of people have asked me, like, what's the difference between your clairvoyance and then channeling the Nine, translating messages from them? To me, it's just a different feeling. It's kind of like when you drive as opposed to when you hop in an Uber. You're getting a different experience, but you're still going to the same destination. Does that make sense? So it's like when I receive visions, that's my clairvoyance. When I interdimensionally travel, I'm actually actively grabbing the information. So I leave my body through my pineal gland and I roam around the cosmos, if you will, or travel to different dimensions to get specific information. That's more of the active. So I would say that that's more of a masculine energy. And then when I communicate with the Nine, I can just be human, just be me. I mean, obviously I'm human, but I don't have to necessarily meditate. And it's kind of like being on the phone with a friend and you're receiving different downloads that come in blocks of information. And so the Nine are just a higher aspect of myself when I'm not in that trance and I'm not running, or I should say flying to other dimensions to capture information or to grab information. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So it's still me. It's just that I'm communicating with a higher aspect of myself, which are also ETs. So they present to me as Arcturian beings who look like aliens. Sometimes they present as angels with white wings. So it all depends on what comes through that day. But overall, I would say to you that whenever you imagine unicorns and you connect with that energy, then you are automatically connecting with a very specific frequency that relates to the unicorn. So it's like it is the unicorn, and that unicorn is a cloud of intelligence that has its own life and has its own set of understandings about life, just like birds would in comparison to snakes. So you're just choosing different radio stations. That's how I see channeling. It's like you just get to communicate with different aspects of yourself that are also separate from you because they have their own individuated consciousness, their own unique signature. So they are you, but they're not you, and they are you. Like it's all one. Is what I'm saying. And as long as the information is coming through and being brought forward, that's really all that matters. And I always get this vision of like some days I want to jump in my car and drive everyone around, and sometimes I just want to hop in an Uber, and that feels like when I communicate with the Nine. It's like, all right, let me just receive some information and downloads, and it's a back and forth. It's like being on the phone. So I've been asking them why I'm so emotional lately. And I'm sure a lot of you are. Why I'm feeling so hypersensitive to my surroundings, why I'm feeling so sensitive to what people say, to pain that other people might be feeling, because this is not really typical of me. I mean, we go through a stage in our awakening where we learn how to really fortify ourselves because we don't want to internalize other people's issues anymore. But we've been in an interesting phase lately. And I'll give you like an example just to kind of have it make sense. Like the other day, I wanted to explain something in my YouTube community. And by the way, this is not to make a dig at all, because the person was super amazing in response to what I said. So this is just to use this as an example, okay? I was wanting to share something that was on my heart, and the person responded, "No need to explain. We love you and we support you." And I saw that this person was coming from a good place. But what I mean by hypersensitivity is in that first sentence, "no need to explain," I saw all the Akashic records that relate to the collective. So this person may be oblivious to what's going on in the unconscious realm, but we all do this. I'm responsible for these kind of things as well. and I'll get to me in a minute, but this person said no need to explain. But I wanted to explain. I wanted to share what was on my heart. So in that moment, I just saw how we've had so many lifetimes where we don't allow each other to express ourselves because we're not able to receive, because our capacity to process information can be quite small at times. And so we're more comfortable saying, you don't need to explain, and we push it away. And we do this to each other. We push each other away. We judge each other. We dictate how someone should be or how they should behave. And in that moment, I saw the aspect of them, which was an aspect that was more like a perpetrator, that was telling me how to run my life. But I wanted to explain. That was a conscious choice. And then I have to look at, okay, they have this aspect, which means that I have to have it too. And then I started, doing some shadow work to go into those crevices of my energy field, into all the nooks and the crannies, to really shine light on some of the things that I might still be running. So I feel like we've been clearing so many energies the last few years. And now we're finding all these little rabbit holes of things that we couldn't see before that pertain to the Akashic record and what needs to be cleared from that Akash. And look, I do it too. Sometimes someone will be like, oh, I don't like my job. And I'll say like, well, at least you have your health. And it's like, no, that's not what this person is saying right now. They just want to be heard. I don't do this as often as I used to, just because I've really worked on it over the years, but I still catch myself doing it. We're human. That's why we're in this together. So I've been feeling super sensitive to everything that people say, because there's a code in there. There's almost like a structure that you can see in everything that they say, like an underlying intention that they may not even be privy to, that they may not be aware of, but it'll slap you in the face and be like, oh God, leave me alone. Like, do you, I'll do me. And I'm not saying that from a reactive place, but I can picture a world where we can all respect each other for being unique, because we all have a different expression. We all have different preferences in life. Some people want to be monogamous. Some people want to be polyamorous. Some people want to be vegan. Some people don't want to be vegan. And what the guides are always telling me is it's never going to be about that. Yes, to some degree it will be, but it's more so about the energy that you bring to the fold. So the nine are always showing me, like, let's say that you have, because I don't want to rag on vegans, because I've met very conscious vegans and very unconscious vegans. But I'm just going to use this as an example, but I love all of you. Just know that. All of you meaning all of you humans and starseeds watching this. So they always show me that if you have someone who's a vegan, who casts stones, right? They judge other people for not being vegan. And they're like, how can you kill animals? Well, in that moment that you're being judged by a vegan, or that a vegan is judging you, they just killed someone on a parallel reality. It's like they're sliding a knife in you and pulling it out, and down you go. So let's say that you have someone who's not a vegan, and you decide, well, I'm going to judge them for not being so. Well, your judgment, even though you're not able to see it in this point of focus that you're in, on this version of reality that you're in, you just killed someone on an alternate reality. Now remember, when we step out of time, there's no such thing as the 1980s or 1970s. It's all happening at the same time. All these timelines are intertangled. So the nine are always showing me that the way that we're going to anchor peace on earth is if we all respect each other. Some people need different things. Some people can't be vegan. They have certain things that they need in their body. Some people have to be. Some people feel called to it. Some people force it. And all of it's okay as long as we don't judge each other's preferences. And I know that the multidimensional perspective I just gave you is a big one. So take a deep breath if you need to. But every time that we throw shade, or every time that we judge someone else, or we have an idea of how they should behave, it is very plausible that in that moment you are judging them and you are killing them on an alternate reality. So just think about that. All right, so I touched on having been very sensitive. I asked the 9 what's going on. And what they responded was that there's a collective emotional outburst taking place right now. Of all the Akashic imprints that we've been shoving down and stuffing down for eons, the stuff we didn't want to look at, the safety issues, the abandonment issues, the feeling like we're being violated with something as little or as small as no need to explain. But it's small from one perspective. From a different perspective, if you're clairvoyant or you're clairaudient or you're multidimensional, you can see how that person's not allowing you to be who you are. So there's an infringement on one's free will in that moment. So the last few days, we've been clearing residues, almost like if you took a fish tank and you cleaned it and you thought it was clean, and then you pull out that last rock and you're like, ooh, all this dust is floating up to the surface. All this dirt is coming up. That's what's been happening. So it feels like an emotional roller coaster. I was with Rex's dogs the other day and I just started looking at them and tearing up because I love them so much. I'm like, what? I'm crying? Which crying is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but I'm not one to cry a lot. And I had so much appreciation for how beautiful they are and how kind they are. They have such an angelic energy. So a lot of you are going to be experiencing symptoms such as like weeping uncontrollably. All right, you might sob without rhyme or reason. You might feel extra compassionate towards your peers, towards the strangers in your life, people you come into contact with. So what the 9 are showing me now is like, we all are imperfect from one viewpoint. We're beautiful and we're whole and we're perfect. However, we've been flawed. We've judged each other. We've gossiped about each other. We've complained. So this is a time to all unite and recognize that this doesn't define us. We're not defined by our mistakes. We're not defined by when we pop out of alignment and we try to dictate someone else's reality. But the shadow self of that person is going to be very apparent to you. But our job right now, just like with that guy who said no need to explain, I had to take a nice deep breath, open up my heart, and say, this person may not be aware that on a multidimensional level, they're telling me what I can and can't do. So let me open up my heart, not only for him, but for me, because he's representative or reflective of an aspect that I'm probably still running or carrying. And let me extend compassion to both of us, but still speak from the heart without judgment. And I did, and this person received it so well. So if you're watching this, I thank you for being you. And this is just one of 100 examples that have come up this week. We do this thing where the 9 are saying, we say at least you have a job. At least you're not blind. At least you can hear. At least you have your 2 arms. But to the person who's expressing themselves, their pain is real. They're feeling that pain. And you may not be able to fully empathize or sympathize because you haven't been dealt that deck of cards. But to them, it's like a thorn that's being pulled out and it hurts like hell. It's like splinters in your feet. Like, you know they're there and you're like, and you can't get them out. So the 9 showed me that the volume is being turned way up on all the subtleties, all the things that were hidden from view, that we stuffed in the crevices of our energy fields because it wasn't time to address them yet. And then I asked them, is this associated to me taking more days off the gym, to me loosening my grip on life, not white knuckling my reality, really like loosening my grip and flowing with life? Do they have, are they associated? They said 100%, Phil. You're learning how to love yourself more and accept yourself as you are, finding safety within yourself without having to depend on something like the gym to feel confident or to feel powerful. And so, because you're shining more light upon yourself, you're discovering places within your field that have been neglected for so long. You know, I was with my friend yesterday, and she was saying to me, I love when you respond to people on your Instagram with like firm boundaries, and you're not only thinking about them, you're thinking about everyone else who might read that comment. And I said, I thank you so much. But at the same time, I can now identify that I've been covering up my traumas by having a rebuttal, by having a witty comment. So from one viewpoint, yes, it's great that I'm able to own my power and to put someone in their place, and just not necessarily put them in their place, but to show them that there are other perspectives. Don't be so fixed in your viewpoint. And to show them like, look, I'm not a pushover. You don't get to attack me. But as long as I keep feeding the attacker, then I'm feeding my inner attacker. So it keeps the story alive. It's like being on a merry-go-round and you're just going around and around and around and around, and you never break out of that particular matrix. Not the 3D matrix, but every thought is linked to a matrix. Every pattern is a matrix. So a few months ago, I decided I'm not going to respond to negativity anymore, even though I wasn't triggered. So I want to be very clear in saying that I wasn't triggered. I was really trying to help my followers by sharing a perspective that they may not have thought of. I wasn't doing it for the attacker. I was doing it for the people that read my comments. But even then, it still feeds into it to some degree. So now we're having to look at ourselves and be like, all right, I now have to assume 100% responsibility for every single thing that is floating up to the surface that I want to shove back down. I can't do that. I can't throw it in the basement anymore and lock it in a cage. The tough part, though, and I'm sharing this for all of you, is because that old pattern was so solidified, it was so strengthened, you're going to have to take extra breaths to release it. Like, I surrender, I'm not going to engage. I'm going to let this go. And instead, I'm going to point my focus inwardly and offer love to that part of myself that is begging me to be freed. I'm going to offer love to the part of myself that's locked in that cage in my basement and say, I forgive myself for having kept you so long. I'm ready to set you free. When really it's setting us free. So there's a collective emotional uprising of all these Akashic records that are going to be neutralized for good now. And they weren't meant to be interfaced with before now. They weren't meant to be confronted because we were dealing with other things. Think of them as layers or Russian dolls. We were dealing with the bigger Russian dolls, the prominent things that we were wanting to clear and heal within ourselves. And now we're going down and we're opening the Russian doll, going down to the smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller one. So the more that you love yourself, the more you can expect some of these old imprints to bubble up to the surface so that you can acknowledge them, feel them, and clear them. The other message I got for you guys, this was so powerful, and they're for me too. The other message that I got from the 9 was that all of you light workers, the 144, all the way showers, all the starseeds, all the galactic shamans, and I call them galactic shamans because you can be a shaman and be initiated by other shamans in physical form, but you can also be a shaman and be initiated by ETs through your inner work and through piercing through that veil and chipping away at the wall of limitation. You're being initiated by other beings all the time, by higher aspects of yourself. And those are one and the same. They are and they're not. They have an individual consciousness, just like you, who's watching this right now. You have your favorite colors. You have your favorite food. You may not like the sports that I like. You may not meditate the same way I do. So we're different. And you can offer me a perspective that I may not have based upon the matrix that you're deciding to explore within. But we can also agree that from the higher dimensional standpoint, we are one. There's no separation. But separation is needed in order to find yourself. It's needed. If I went to the coffee shop I go to every day and I talked to everyone who wants to talk to me, I would not have time to accomplish what I go there to do, which is to activate my pineal gland. So those walls, those boundaries are needed. You have to separate from separation consciousness, meaning from everyone who wants from you and wants to sit with you and hang out with you all the time, which they're just operating from within the vibration they're in. So it's perfect for them. I'm just not necessarily harmonizing with that in that moment because I go to the coffee shop to accomplish something. So we almost have to separate from 3D, which sounds like counterintuitive, but we have to separate from separation consciousness in order to unify within unity consciousness, within ourselves, to find ourselves again, to rediscover who we are. So if you don't have boundaries in life, how could you ever remember all that you are? If I was there at everyone's beck and call throughout the day, doing 10 readings a day, would I have time to meditate? No. Would I have time to discover all these abilities that we have within our DNA? No. So we need to have boundaries in life, because that boundary is like the masculine protecting you to then let go into your feminine and get creative. So having invisible walls is of the most import when you are learning how to let go into that safe space within yourself again, into, traveling to other dimensions through your pineal gland. You need to have walls. That's part of it. So what was I saying? I don't even know how I got to this place. Okay, I was saying that the 9 were showing me that because we've done so much work as shamans and starseeds and wayshowers, maybe everything that's coming up now, since we're all one, and if I clear it for me, I'm also clearing it for you. And if you clear it for you, you're clearing it for someone else. What if we get to now decompress and say, okay, I'm going to lean back. And even though I'm feeling all these triggers, maybe the people who are on the cusp of awakening or who have just awakened can handle that for me. Because I've been clearing so much the last few years. So the 9 were saying, if you feel triggered by people, if you feel overly sensitive, first, the key is to not engage, to take a few deep breaths, to go within and give yourself love, and say, I'm not going to deflate my energy by engaging in this again. I know what this is. It's familiar to me. I've been here before. And maybe the reason why you've been here before and you've already cleared it is so that another starseed that's just awakened, and I don't mean that in a condescending way at all. I'm just saying that we go through awakening phases. Maybe they're meant to clean that up. So you've been vacuuming your house, blah, 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 and then you stumble upon a room that's completely dirty in the hallway of your building. Maybe it is yours because you're feeling it. You adopted it as your own. You accepted it. You might have participated in it. You for sure participated in it in another lifetime and in this lifetime. But how about like unburdening yourself and saying, someone else has got this for me. I'm going to throw my feet up and I'm just going to let them clear that for me. The 9 were saying to me that we have an opportunity to completely remove the veil that separates us from that highest consciousness. But we have to decide that we're going to go on a spiritual fast. We're going to detoxify those old patterns of ours and not engage in negativity anymore. And if we feel triggered, it's like, cool, I recognize that this is that person's shadow. And I also recognize that they may not be cognizant of that shadow. So I'm going to extend love to them, extend love to myself, meaning I'm not going to get reactive. And in so doing, you are freeing yourself. You've already freed the majority of who you are, meaning that greater part. You've cleared like 6 out of 8 slices of your pizza. But now, all these pepperonis and all these mushrooms and all these things are coming up. And they're going to hurt so bad. I mean, I've been feeling like there's a knife in me and they're twisting it. Ugh. I'm like, oh. But then I have to take a nice deep breath and remind myself, Phil, your guides are showing you where you can go, where you can ascend to now, if you so choose that. And exactly, keywords, if you so choose that. So what are you going to decide to do in this now moment? Can you open up your heart, not take it personally, recognize that you had a part to play in it, otherwise it wouldn't be showing up? Maybe it's a record that you haven't cleared that's been in your basement. Maybe it's that deepest stored trauma that was hidden in a pocket of your energy field. And you're finally ready to give it love, to give yourself love. So in my last energy update, I talked about how you're not going to want to conform to that rigid routine anymore. Because you've been riding the waves more and just kind of going with what you want to do and what you feel like doing, that's a form of love. So because you're extending more love towards yourself, you're now shining a light on all those dark aspects of yourself that you weren't even aware that you had. Or maybe you were somewhat aware, but you were still covering it up. Just like when I would respond to negativity, I was still covering up my trauma. And I don't want to cover it up anymore. Take a nice deep breath because I felt you guys there. Let's not cover up our traumas anymore and put up these walls. Sometimes you'll have to put up a wall so that you can honor your higher self. So I'm putting up a wall so that I can meditate at this coffee shop. But it's not a wall that's like, I don't like you, don't talk to me. It is don't talk to me, but it's because I'm honoring my higher self. It doesn't come from a negative place. It comes from a place of, I need to be the best version I can be. Because even though I can't talk to you in this now moment, know that everything I'm doing in here is actually echoing through time and space. So I'm serving the collective by serving my higher self. But I mean more in terms of like the walls of trauma. You know, when you put up a front, or when you're someone's bantering with you and you want to prove that you can do it too. It's crazy because lately I just see everything as like a program. Like when someone says, I'm the funny one, or they say like, oh yeah, I don't like hanging with the girls. I'm more of a what do you call it? A guy's girl. That's all program. Is this personality that you feel safe in, and so you decide to adopt all these different identities and personas as your own. And I also asked the 9, does this have to do with me not wanting to socialize lately? They said, yes, Phil, you've mastered being that outgoing guy who can be the life of the party, who can have tequila, who can have fun, who can treat everyone at the dinner table and be outgoing. You've mastered being the hermit. I'm such a hermit right now. But you've mastered being in your own bubble and isolating yourself from society. You've played in all these different realms, and now you don't feel like playing anymore. And that's where I feel like I'm at. We don't feel like playing anymore. Because we keep sticking that knife in our own stomach when we do so. Now, I will say this. Sometimes you have to play because it's strengthening you. So if you've been bullied your whole life, I was bullied for a big part of my life. If you've been bullied for a big part of your life, then yes, you're going to have to talk back for a while because that's your way of recalibrating your field. But some people get stuck in that role. And 3D, how I see 3D and 4D, it's all role playing. It's different characters in a movie. But it's not the truth of what we are. The truth of what we are is that, but it's more than that. Is that we're none of that. That we're higher dimensional beings of love and light that don't need to prove anything. That don't need to seek out approval. That can just be and trust that in the beingness, you will magnetize exactly what's meant to be in your life. I've gotten off all the dating apps a while ago. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with them. I actually think that your soulmate can be on them. So if you feel that calling to be there right now, there's a reason for that. I like that part of me died. I was like, I can't do this anymore. And then I had a conversation with the universe and I said, universe, I will leave it in your hands to decide what's best for me. And even though I'm a hermit, and even though I don't socialize, I believe that you will send someone my direction. And the 9 referred to this as opening up different access points within the universe. You can do this all the time. I did this for years. So I'm not a reader. I don't like to read books. I never have. I like to be connected with my higher self and receive downloads. I do like listening to channelers here and there because they're very inspiring. So what I did was, I love learning new words every day, like maybe 1 or 2 words. And because I knew that I wouldn't be reading, I asked my universe to teach me new words through other people. So that would be likened to opening up an access point within the grids. And I said, universe, if there's any word that you need me to know about, if there's any word that I'm supposed to register within my mind or that I need to assimilate, I will trust you to deliver that information to me through a conversation that I might be having with someone. So I'm not focused on that when I'm talking to someone. I'm present with them in my heart. And then I trust that everything will seamlessly show up when it needs to. And that's how I learn new words. That's opening up an access point. It's kind of like opening up a portal. I also call it programming your field. So you're deciding, universe, I'm walking into this mall right now. If there's anything you have, if you have any message for me, I trust that every single person who looks at me is going to be sending me a transmission. Boom. And then you're able to to receive different downloads through that because you've just programmed your matrix. Anyways, I digressed. So collective emotional outbursts right now. Give yourself a break, you guys. Cut yourself some slack. Take a breather. You've done so much already. We've done so much. Maybe the newbies, the starseeds, can handle some of that for us now. And I'm sure that while we were clearing ours, we were handling it for someone else. That's my point. There's no judgment in this. It's kind of like when your mom says, all right, I've been carrying the grocery bags, your turn. That's what I'm talking about. But yes, you're going to feel very sensitive. 1 hour, you might feel amazing, full of energy. And the next hour, you might be completely depleted. And you just want to crawl under your sheets and sleep. The other download I got for you guys was you might be feeling tingliness in your crown chakra when you meditate. So there's a crown chakra opening. And the 9 just said to me now, they said that's because all the stuff that was deeply buried in your field, it needs to actually evacuate the premises through your crown chakra so that it can be sent back to source. So maybe that's why we're experiencing the crown chakra. Something interesting has been happening to me when I meditate now. I hear like wings flapping in my forehead. So I've always heard ringing in my ears. I've always had like a piercing sensation in my third eye. It's like someone's piercing it. But lately it's been like wings that are flapping in there. So it's like like birds flying around in my brain. So you might be feeling some of that. You may have days where you wake up at 7 a.m. and you're ready to go and you're not tired. You just keep going all day long. And then you might have days where you want to sleep in. And I think I mentioned that in the last video. Our hearts are opening, you guys. We're connecting to other people's abandonment issues because we have them too. We're connecting to those traumas, man. Having been violated so many lifetimes, having violated others. That person wouldn't have said no need to explain to me unless I've done that to someone in the past. So it hurts, but it's making us a better person. I've actually been praying more lately, not in like a religious sense. It's more like universe, God, higher self, please help me become the best version I can be. So it's a humbling time. I hope this message helped you guys. I cannot believe I went for another 38 minutes. This is crazy, but also amazing. And thank you to everyone taking the time to subscribe. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting. And thank you to the 9 for having given me all this information. So I'll see you guys soon.